T9C got the fucking juice.
Silver's the new gold.
Chris, this shit's fun.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. We're back at it again. We had some technical difficulties on the first one, but we should have all that taken care of and figured out. The mic sound good on this one, right?
Yo.
The mic sound good. Everybody hear me okay? I sound good. Yo. You hear me?
Oh, he's talking to me. Yeah, I can hear you.
I
thought he was asking a chat.
I just had to make sure. But what's going on, everyone?
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. Man, I'm joined by my guy, Artie, head of director of scouting for Filmissart. It's a black-owned scouting company. And my guy Artie does some phenomenal content. Make sure that you guys go ahead, subscribe to his channel. I have it pinned in the comment section down below. He uploads great draft content. And we have a fantastic episode today for you guys. Aaron Donald recently retired. The Steelers got rid of Kenny Two Hands Pickett. Small Two Hands Pickett, I should add. Justin Fields' trade value, it doesn't look like there are a lot of options for him to be starting next year. And Sam Howell got traded to the Seahawks. Did they potentially get their QB1 of the future? The Minnesota Vikings just traded up to 23rd in this year's draft. They got 2 first-round picks. Are they eyeing a quarterback? Are they trying to come away with one of the top prospects in this year's class? Xavier Worthy, he set the combine on fire, had the fastest 40 time in combine history, but how will he fare at the next level? And what are the options for the Patriots at 3? What should they do? Should they take a quarterback at 3? Should they trade down, or should they take a wide receiver? We're going to get into that, but before we do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember that we're not just a podcast. We are a YouTube channel. Every episode of the podcast is available in audio format on all podcasting platforms: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. Wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. Follow us on our socials: Instagram at JT Sports _, X at JT Sports __. And let's get into it, man. So let's talk about the man of the hour, Artie. Aaron Donald finally has retired from terrorizing opposing quarterbacks in the National Football League. 8-time All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 10-time Pro Bowler, and he has 111 total sacks. To me, he's a top 5 defensive player in NFL history. In terms of the past decade, in my generation, he's the best defensive player that I've ever watched, better than J.J. Watt. And when I think of Aaron Donald, I think of a trailblazer. I think of somebody who absolutely transformed how people go about evaluating the defensive tackle position. Because years ago, you weren't seeing a lot of undersized defensive tackles that were less than 300 pounds getting drafted. Aaron Donald comes in and all of a sudden everybody wants a smaller interior defensive lineman that can get after the quarterback. How do you feel about Aaron Donald? And, what is going to be his legacy for you?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of what you said at the end there. Just gonna reference back to basketball just a little bit. When Michael Jordan was drafted in the 80s, teams laughed at the Bulls. They were like, "You're drafting this skinny guard out of North Carolina over, a big man," because that's how the game was played back then. But Michael Jordan obviously changed the game of basketball. And the same can be said about Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald changed the way the NFL, valued the defensive tackle position as a pass rusher. Interior pressure became, a much more important, factor and feat and ability that you look for in a defensive tackle. Everyone has been trying to find the next Aaron Donald for the past 10 years. So, yeah, I think he's just gonna go down as obviously a phenomenal player. Hard worker, guy who played through quadruple teams and everything. But I think the main thing is he honestly changed the game of football, and that's something that for me as a scout, you have to acknowledge and respect because the way he played, kind of changed, the way me and my peers, see the position.
Definitely. And when I think of Aaron Donald, I'm always going to remember the final drive of that Super Bowl win against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's him, Von Miller, terrorizing Joe Burrow. And you could just see, the look in Joe Burrow's face is just like, oh, shit, like our terrible offensive line is finally coming to haunt us, man. And Aaron Donald, bro, it's like, you listen to the way opposing quarterbacks describe playing against this dude, it's like, you were damn near fearful of your damn career when he was coming at you, bro. Like, you used to hate having to see this dude because it's like, he was going to get to you eventually. It just was a matter of when. And,
Yeah.
we already know he's going to be a gold jacket in Canton in a few years. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But for you, where does he rank in terms of all-time talents in NFL history defensively?
That's tough. Um, that's tough because there's been a lot of great defensive players. Um, some of them I haven't even been able to go back and watch yet because I am fairly new to this, football thing. I was mainly a basketball guy growing up, but based on the players I've seen, which I haven't seen everybody yet, I think he's definitely, firmly in the top 10. And I think top 5, like, is it's a reasonable conversation. Like, because again, he changed the way people saw or and evaluated defensive tackles. Like, it was never anymore about, oh, can you just space eat? And can you just potentially be able to play 3 downs and just get some interior push? Now everyone is looking for your defensive tackle to be able to cross chop, to be able to bull rush, to be able to do spin moves and all kind of crazy, be able to line up at a wide 9 tech or 5 tech or 3 tech and be able to rush. So yeah, I agree with you, and I think that him being a top 5 defensive player at all time is pretty fair. Pretty fair Point.
And for the Los Angeles Rams, this definitely is a happy but sad day because that Aaron Donald is going to be enshrined in not just Rams franchise history, but in NFL history. But it also is going to be a gigantic blow to their defense going into next season because Aaron Donald was one of those players on defense that he had the rare ability to win you games just by himself with his impact at times. He could flip 3-4 games for you. So that definitely is going to be a loss that the Rams are going to have a hard time. I don't even think you're going to be able to replace a guy like Aaron Donald because he's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of player. But who wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime kind of player, though? The Pittsburgh Steelers have traded Kenny Small Hands Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles, man. And I said it from the get-go when the Steelers first drafted this dude. He was not it. He had a good one-off season at Pittsburgh, but there was nothing special about Kenny Pickett. And when you think about his time in Pittsburgh, it was really underwhelming. You think about how he frustrated wide receivers, overthrowing guys like Deontay Johnson and George Pickens when they're wide open on 5 and 4 yard slants and drags. And you can say that he may not have had the fair shake because of Matt Canada and how trash he was as a play caller, but you kind of knew the writing was on the wall for Kenny Pickett once Mason Rudolph came in and pretty much saved the Steelers season. And a large reason why the Steelers traded Kenny Pickett is because he kind of wanted to move. He didn't respond well to Russell Wilson coming in, which doesn't make any sense. So he's not even the competitor that I thought he was. And I don't want to call the dude soft, but it's like, you can just tell that he doesn't handle criticism well. He doesn't handle pressure well. And, bro, like, you weren't even willing to compete with old regressing Russell Wilson, who the Denver Broncos thought was bad enough that they were willing to take a record-setting dead cap hit of $85 million to replace. And you mean to tell me you're not even going to compete, man? Get the hell off my team, bro. I never wanted you on my team to begin with. I wanted Malik Willis. And I don't care how bad Malik Willis has looked right now. At least Malik Willis is going to give it his all. He ain't going to back down. And it's like late in the season, he didn't even want to suit up to be the Steelers' emergency backup quarterback. Like, I'm glad this dude is off the Steelers already. Like, I really hated watching this dude. It's like, every time he was at QB, you knew the Steelers were going to do one or two things. Go 3 and out, or end up turning the football over. Now, he didn't turn the football over as much, but that's all the offense really did. And, I'm just so happy now that he's gone. Huge disaster. I don't know, man. Am I too hard on him?
I'm not a Steelers fan, but I do have, like, my own narrative I want to push on that one because it's rare you see in-state trades, but I found it extremely interesting, the team that the Steelers decided to dump Kenny Pickett off to. Because all we were talking about this time last year was, oh, how great Jalen Hurts played in the Super Bowl. Oh, my gosh. Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in this league. Clearly the best quarterback in the NFC conference. This and that. Off of getting pushed from his backside. Like, is this what we're really gassing up this quarterback for? Being pushed a yard from his backside. Oh, he had a couple of deep throws to A.J. Brown. Okay, A.J. Brown's a very talented receiver. Like, if I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I'm a little concerned by this trade. Because it's like, you just paid Jalen Hurts. Like, I get it, right? If you have some cool, cooked up, super, sized plan on how you're going to develop Kenny Pickett into a suitable starting quarterback post this debacle in Pittsburgh, and you're going to trade him and get assets, then okay. But as a Cowboys fan and just as a NFL like scout, I'm just looking like y'all are trading for an NFL starter.
You see Kenny Pickett as a starter?
I'm saying, like, in a pinch, Kenny Pickett could start and finish an NFL game.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're an NFL starter doesn't mean you're good. But in a pinch, you can start Kenny Pickett for a whole NFL game. Now, how confident you feel you're going to win that game, that's up to you. Because I wouldn't be confident that you're going to win that game, but whatever. So, like I was saying, you're essentially trading for an NFL starter when you just paid your quarterback after 1 year of production. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. Like, that just, to me, that just screams just a tiny bit of Jalen Hurts insecurity. So, I'm very interested to see how that unfolds as a Cowboys fan, because I'm just like, this is the guy that you guys just pushed on the head of Dak after one good year.
But I do think
he's better than Dak and everybody else in the conference. So I'm very interested to see how that shakes out.
I do think that Kenny Pickett is a solid backup, for what they need, because they did say that they were looking around trying to find, a trade for like another backup. They did lose Marcus Mariota to free agency. And, with him signing to the Commanders, it definitely put them in a little bit of a pinch. But for me personally, I think that Kenny Pickett, this trade for the Eagles does make a lot of sense. They do need to find somebody who could be good enough to run the offense in case Jalen Hurts goes down. But I think that if he was to get injured, with the supporting cast that the Philadelphia Eagles have around Kenny Pickett, if he had to come in on a short-term notice and maybe win them a game or two, he definitely is capable, because it's not like he was one of the worst draft picks that we've ever seen at QB. Like, his rookie season, he did win a few games. It's just that he's one of those quarterbacks that he needs everything to go right for him to win. And if he doesn't have everything around him to succeed, then it's not going to be that great. Man, we lost our guy Artie for a second, man. We gotta bring him back here. We gotta bring our guy back here. Man, but yeah, man, it's just, when you think of Kenny Pickett to me, this trade with what the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting in return for him, they're getting a good amount of assets. They're getting a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick in this year's draft, and they get 2 7-rounders in 2025, while the Eagles get Kenny Pickett plus a 4th-rounder for this year. But when you think about how the Kenny Pickett experiment went in Pittsburgh, it was short-lived because the dude just honestly wasn't that good. If Kenny Pickett was the quarterback that many people thought he could have been, maybe a diet version of Joe Burrow, the Steelers potentially could have made it a lot further in the postseason this year than what they did. But since Kenny Pickett didn't live up to expectations, it really has set this franchise back in terms of being able to ever become a legitimate Super Bowl contender again. But to me, for the Philadelphia Eagles, you get a good backup. He can come in, get you through a game, maybe win you a game or two, depending on, the team you got around them. But I'm just glad that this dude is off of my Steelers, bro. I hated watching this dude. Anytime I see a quarterback with 2 long sleeves, I know you suck. You feel me? Like, I'll never take a quarterback with 2 long sleeves seriously, bro. It's like, what are you doing back there with those big inflatables on your arms, bro? Like, come on. How can you even throw the ball? How can you play with 2 long sleeves and 2 gloves, fam? You playing every single game like you playing in freezing weather, dog. Like, as soon as I saw Kenny Pickett come out in that tire, I knew this dude wasn't going to be good, bro. It just screams duck to me. Like, just a duck, bro. That's all I ever saw when I looked at Kenny Pickett. A duck, bro. And the fact that there were people saying he needed more time, the dude would be 27 or 26 around this time next year, bro. Like, there's no more time for him. If you can't start now, the whole appeal for Kenny Pickett getting drafted in the 1st round was the fact that he was the most pro-ready quarterback, supposedly, in a weak quarterback class. And you know who was better than him? Brock Purdy, the last pick of the draft. Sam Howell was better than Kenny Pickett. Desmond Ridder was better than Kenny Pickett, fam. At least Desmond Ridder. You don't know about that one? It's like I would have took Desmond Ridder over Kenny Pickett.
Desmond Ridder is really bad. So that's like it's like you're comparing the lesser of two evils. Like I think Desmond Ridder is really bad. So I don't know if I would say Kenny Pickett is as bad as Desmond Ridder, but I understand what you're saying though. I understand your point.
Justin Fields has a huge cult, man. I never knew that Justin Fields had this big of a fan base until the whole trade talk started to come along. And now that we are now starting to see more teams figure out their quarterback situations, there's not a lot of landing spots for Justin Fields to go where he has the opportunity to start next season, unless you're the Denver Broncos or the New England Patriots. And Sean Payton, after the Broncos came back and beat the Bears last season when Justin Fields had his best game of the season, you know, Sean Payton after the game said, yeah, Justin Fields, we had him right where we want him, throwing the ball from inside the pocket. And what happened? He had a fumble and an interception, and the Broncos end up losing the game. And a lot of NFL fans' perception about Justin Fields is a lot different from how the actual league views Justin Fields. If Justin Fields was as good as what many Bears fans or his fans believe that he is, he would have already been traded by now. Because a guy who's supposed to be good shouldn't take this long to get traded. And the NFL, it's like the stock market. If a stock's going down, there's a reason why it's going down. The NFL is telling you what Justin Fields is. And that is, he's a decent quarterback. He's not good enough to really win you a lot of games or potentially even win you a Super Bowl. So for you, Artie, like, how do you feel about Justin Fields as far as his potential to be a starter next season? Because it really looks pretty slim.
Logistically, I don't feel good about it, but JT, I think that's a little bit unfair to Justin. I believe that he did not have the red carpet laid out for him in Chicago. I remember when he was drafted and Andy Dalton was signed for agency that year, and Andy Dalton came out and said, in a question asked about Justin Fields, he was like, I'm the starting quarterback. So he didn't have, a quarterback to learn from in the room. He didn't really have good coaching. And that first year, as his first full year as a starter, he had no talent. Like, the play calling was bad. The play calling was bad at the beginning of this year, too, even after they got DJ Moore for him. But, hey, say what you want about you can't win you a Super Bowl. Honestly, he's still developing, one. And two, when he came back from his broken hand, Justin Fields, metrics-wise, was playing at a top 10 quarterback level. Like, he was really good post-injury this season. And I think it's a small sample size, but I think Justin Fields is more like those 7 games than the previous 14 or whatever it was, because you finally got to see Justin Fields with legitimate NFL play calling and a legitimate, wide receiver one. It's so hard to evaluate, any quarterback without a true, wide receiver one or just weapons. But it's extremely hard to evaluate a young quarterback who's still learning how to process NFL defenses, who's still learning, the speed of edge rushers coming off, the edge, who's learning, how, I can't throw that timing route right there. That cornerback's going to jump that route. While they don't have the adequate talent to properly do those things.
What about CJ Stroud? What's the difference between him and CJ Stroud?
So CJ Stroud's better than Justin Fields.
In one season? But Justin Fields has been playing 3 years though. Why is that?
What I'm saying is that CJ Stroud coming out for me, because Justin Fields is in that range of quarterbacks I've evaluated. CJ Stroud had a higher grade for me than Justin Fields. Like, I had Justin Fields as quarterback 2 in that class, but it was a sizable gap between him and Trevor. I thought CJ and Bryce were like that. like 1A, 1B. So I believe that, CJ Stroud was more pro ready. And then again, it all goes back to situation. CJ Stroud was in a great situation in Houston. Like, his play caller was outstanding for him. I mean, yes, he didn't have, I guess the most ideal weapons or whatever, but he still had the weapons that were able to produce for him. And beyond that, he made the most of those weapons. He elevated that talent.
So why couldn't Justin Fields have done that?
Because Justin Fields, again, development was stunted. When you're trying to develop, and your development is stunted, and the only time you actually have all three at once, good to solid play calling, an actual legitimate wide receiver that can win on the outside, and then you're also confident in your ability to throw the football, when it all comes together, that's when you can fairly evaluate him. And I feel like the only time Justin Fields has ever had that is for 7 games. Now, I say all that to say that Justin Fields' trade market is the way it is because people are just unsure. They're not sure on what he can potentially be. I made a whole thing last year on our channel saying, help the bear, help Justin Fields, give him talent. They gave him talent, and through 7 games, like I've said, he did the best with it that he could. But time's up. They did what they had to do with the whole Bryce Young trade. They got DJ Moore back, a valuable asset. They just got Keenan Allen from the Chargers for essentially nothing. So, and they've been, adding players on defense. They got Montez Sweat at the trade deadline. They re-signed Jalen Jackson. They bringing in Devondre Swift in free agency. So from the Bears, it's like, you have a chance with this current roster to really compete now. So are you that much invested in Justin Fields' development going into year 4? Or are you just going to take literally the best quarterback prospect to come out since, like, Burrow, Luck? Like, that's what the Bears are at. And I would lean taking Caleb Williams. Like, there's no scenario in my opinion, because it's all opinion and objective based. There's no scenario in my opinion where if you ask that team as currently constructed, 5-year window, which quarterback gives you the best chance to win a Super Bowl, that the answer is not Caleb Williams if it's between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields. Because again, Justin Fields is still developing. Now, when you draft Caleb Williams, obviously he has to develop, but Caleb Williams' floor is even above what Justin Fields is at right now. So that's where I'm at with the whole Chicago situation. And quickly, just one last point about the whole trading him thing. I think, again, it goes back to, the league sees things differently than, media does, basically. Yes. But also, trades are a lot harder than they appear. It's not just as simple as, okay, we want Justin Fields, we're just going to give you this pick and this player. No, there are some teams that want to finesse. There are some teams that are super cheap. There are some teams that are like, they'll have an offer 1 minute and the next minute they'll change it, like, and they'll ask for their price or lower their price, or they'll have a high value of a player and then they'll lower it just to get a deal done. So there's a lot more that goes in the NFL trades than is said, when Ian Rappaport makes that tweet. But overall, I think when it comes to Justin Fields, whatever happens with him, I do think he will develop into a starting level quarterback. I just wonder if he'll ever get to that, ceiling that he had coming out in 2021. Because if he does, then he could be potentially, a top 10 quarterback one day. But that's something that it would take, immense work and, immense investment from our team right now to do so.
And when you look at his options outside of New England, it doesn't really look promising because, Sean Payton, I do believe Sean Payton should take the risk because you're not going to be good anyway. So like if you're not going to be that good, you might as well just go ahead and try to get Justin Fields in there and see if you can strike iron, because what do you got to lose? You feel me? And yeah, you are in cap hell because of the Russell Wilson situation, but it's like you won with a Justin Fields kind of QB before with Taysom Hill. You've designed the offense around Taysom Hill's athleticism. And Justin Fields is a better athlete than Taysom Hill, and I think he's a better overall quarterback than Taysom Hill. So I don't get why Denver wouldn't be in the market. Maybe they could be calling around, but New England, there's a rumor saying that New England really wanted Calvin Ridley, but they didn't get him. And with them not being able to get him, they don't feel comfortable enough maybe taking a QB at 3. So therefore, maybe they either trade down, get more assets, or you take a wide receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Nabers at 3, and then you give that call to Chicago. Hey, we'll give you a 4th or 5th for Justin Fields. You see what Justin Fields can do for a year, because he's playing on his 5th-year option. You're going to have to pick that up. You pick up the 5th-year option. If it works out, you re-sign him. You got your long-term answer at QB. You can continue to build around him. But if he doesn't work out, I mean, it's still a win-win scenario, because you're bad enough where you could end up landing Shedeur next season. And same thing with the Denver Broncos. Like, I believe if you're the Denver Broncos, you should already be tanking for Shedeur due to your situation. But if you get Justin Fields, maybe you can kick the ball around with him and, have a little bit of fun. If you're going to be bad, you might as well have some fun, watching Justin Fields go crazy, have a couple of 200-yard performances, have a couple of big throws here and there. But to me, I do believe that we will see Justin Fields starting next year. I will have a hard time seeing him not being a starter. But I believe that at best, he'll have a few Pro Bowl worthy seasons, maybe a few seasons he'll take a team to the playoffs. I believe he's going to be a way better version of Vince Young. He's going to have, it's just that he'll have a decent career where he'll start for 3-4 teams. You feel me? Get re-upped a few times. But I don't really see him as a QB that's going to lead you to a championship. And my whole big issue is that, everybody keeps saying he needs more, but CJ Stroud was already better than him with less, even though he did have, better coaching. But the best quarterbacks are able to make up for some kind of limitation. And he's the worst fourth quarter quarterback in the NFL since 2021. You go back and you look at the games he played well in, they were all against teams that weren't that good. But when you look at what he did against teams that had good defenses, or what playoff teams like the Packers, you lost twice. You lost to the Buccaneers. Hell, your best game against the Broncos, you balled out, but yet you still gave the game away in the 4th quarter. You had a fumble and an interception. Against the Cleveland Browns, the defense carried that game. Where were you? You could even outplay Joe Flacco. So my thing for Justin Fields is, the thing that's holding him back is the fact that he's not better in the 4th quarter. And you listen to everybody in Chicago's organization, what do they want out of their quarterback? They all keep emphasizing 4th quarter play. So if I'm a team like New England and I trade for Justin Fields, I'm sitting him down. I'm saying, hey, bro, like, what's up with you in the 4th quarter, fam? Like, are you somebody who I can count on 2 minutes left in the game to lead me downfield to get the win? Are you that dude? Do you ever believe that Justin Fields can overcome his 4th quarter issues? Like, what's wrong with him in the 4th quarter?
Again, like I said, he's still developing. Like, I can't overstate how bad his situation was. When you're in the 4th quarter and the only thing you've ever known is having to run for your life and then throw to Darnell Mooney, like, sorry, like, what is he supposed to do? Respectfully, like, what is he supposed to do? He's never had, until this year, a weapon to rely on in the 4th quarter. Like, Cole Kmet got extended, but Cole Kmet took a massive jump back half of last year, 2022. Like, it's in my opinion, the whole 4th quarter discourse is just really unfair, because some of the best quarterbacks in the 4th quarter in the league are in those situations consistently, but also either have, the immense talent to overcome the lack of, talent or whatever, or B, have been in the league long enough to understand what is needed in that situation. And Justin Fields has had neither of those things for the majority of his career. So, in my opinion, his fourth quarter issue is null and void because he's still developing quarterback.
So at this point, what would you think the Bears would get in return for him realistically? Because at first it was reported they could get a second rounder, but now that seems like a little bit too high. I don't think they'll give him away for a 6th or a 7th. 5th, 4th, 3rd?
I think they can still get a second for him. I think it's just all about they're stressing if they trade him, they're going to do right by him. But I also think they want to do right by themselves. They don't want to just give him away. You know what I'm saying? Like, it goes back to what I said earlier about how trades are weird. Like, you have some teams that are literally trying to finesse teams. Like, that Atlanta trade with Arizona, straight finesse. Like, there's no way on God's green earth you should be able to get a quarterback of the quality of Desmond Ridder in exchange for a receiver in the quality of Rondale Moore. That's disgusting. So it's just about, finding the right trade partner who you guys have, good rapport with or whatever. You guys have good negotiations and all of that. But I think they'll be able to get a second round for him. I'm not the trade guy. Like, I don't know how trade charts and stuff work. But I think if they were able to get like a second this year and maybe a third next year and a conditional 4th or 5th, I think that would, be good value for Justin. Because at the end of the day, you are selling potential goods. You're not selling damaged goods or, borrowed goods. You're selling potential goods. So you're still selling him based on the fact that he's still a young quarterback. He's still developing and he still can potentially be, a top 10 level quarterback if he reaches his ceiling. So with that comes also teams that are going to try to lowball. They're going to try to say, oh, he hasn't developed yet, so we'll give you a 5th. And then you have some teams that might say, hey, we'll give you a 3rd. But I think overall, the best possible value they could get is probably a second round pick for him.
And where does Justin Fields need to improve to really solidify himself as a solid starting caliber QB in the league? What are his weaknesses?
Yeah, so he definitely needs to improve his pocket presence. It's a big problem. You saw it in the Tampa Bay game last year. There were times where he just held the ball just too long. He would, pause in his dropbacks, and his pocket presence, his pocket mechanics have got to get better. I also believe he at times, now he did better with it this year for sure. But last year, like the year before 2022, he was so quick to get off of his reads. Like, 1 is not there, 2's not there, I'm taking off. This year he was better at it, but again, like I said, via the Tampa Bay game example, he was, going through his reads too slow. So he just needs to find a happy medium of going through my reads, feeling the pressure, and, knowing, okay, it's time, it's 3rd and 7, I got to get 8. It's time for me to get out of here and, make a play and be a playmaker. So it's just finding a balance in that. Also, too, would like to see him, improve his touch on the deep ball. It's not that he can't throw the deep ball. It's just there's sometimes where he, his accuracy and touch kind of unravels when he throws the ball downfield. And one more thing would be, just play more loose. It seems like it takes him a little longer to settle into football games. Like, most quarterbacks, by drive 3, they're settled in. Like, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I know by the time Dak Prescott gets to like his 8th throw, like he's pretty settled in. 8 to 10 throws, he's settled in. Justin Fields might not be settled into the 3rd quarter. Like, that's why, I'm so big on that he's still developing, because I'm still seeing him make like the rookie or second year player type mistakes. And again, it's not really his fault, but at the same time, you can only go off what you see in the current situation. So those are just a couple of things that Justin Fields, in my opinion, needs to work on to develop into that starting quarterback I know he can be.
One last thing is, where do you predict Justin Fields plays at for the 2024 season? I believe he's a Patriot.
It's gonna be funny because of the team you like, but I actually think he's going to be a Steeler, bro.
I hope he's a Steeler, but my thing with the Steelers is that are they going to be willing to want to pick up that 5th-year option? Because it does seem like they have committed to Russell Wilson being a starter. Are they actually going to hold true to their word and actually have a legit quarterback battle? Because you don't have Mason, you don't have Kenny. It's like you might as well go kick the tires on him. And you only signed Russell Wilson to a $1.12 million deal. So if he loses out to Justin Fields, you can cut this dude easily. And me as a Steeler fan, listen, I'm not a Justin Fields hater. The dude is on the cover of my cover art for a reason. You feel me? I do have a lot of love for him. I just have started to like him a lot less because the cult that he has, nobody seems to want to hold him accountable. You feel me? They act like he's the perfect quarterback. But I would love to see him in Pittsburgh. But before we move on, if you guys haven't already, follow us on Instagram and X at JTSports_. You can follow us on X at JTSports__, on Twitter at JTSports_. Make sure that you guys subscribe to my guy, Filmissart. This is our guy, Artie. He is the head of scouting for Filmissart. It's a Black-owned scouting department. You guys can subscribe to them. Link is in the comment section. It's pinned. And let the people know what you guys do and what you guys have planned with the draft nearing by.
Yeah, so we're an NFL scouting department. Consists of about how many scouts do we have now? Consisting of 6 scouts. And we just simply, try to inform, educate the people, the masses on, who are the next upcoming NFL stars. The backbone of our channel, what we mainly do is a lot of film breakdowns. So if you're like into all 22 and like understanding, these players' traits, these players' play styles, definitely subscribe to the channel. We have plenty of that. We also, have, the regular talk, shows. Like we have a NFL, weekly pregame show called the Sunday Spiral. And we also, have a football-based podcast called 100 Yards in Context. So we have different forms, different variables of content over here at Filmissart. And, we're just a bunch of guys who just really love just talking ball. And really, mainly, we just love, educating people. We love to teach people, why players play the way they play or why certain route concepts work the way they work and everything. So, yeah, that's what we are. That's what we stand for. What we have going on is, well, it's pro day season. And with pro day season being here, we are pumping out film sessions at an alarming rate. Next week is going to be a big, big week for the channel. As you guys know, or if you didn't know, USC, Alabama, Ohio State, the pro days are all on the same day. So next week, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kool-Aid McKinstry, prospects like that, their official, draft film sessions will be releasing on the channel. So, if you really want to get a good glimpse of, some of these future NFL players and what their strengths and weaknesses are, consider subscribing to us, and we'll make it spin for you.
Make sure you guys subscribe to my guy, Filmissart. This is our guy, Artie, head of scouting for Filmissart. The link to his channel is down in the pinned comment section below. There's a lot of movement when it comes to the quarterback market. We had another quarterback on the move. Sam Howell has been traded from the Washington Commanders to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are receiving a 4th-round pick and a 6th-rounder and Sam Howell. The Commanders are getting a 3rd-round selection and a 5th-round pick for Sam Howell's services. Sam Howell, to me, this seems like the Seattle Seahawks going out there and trying to find the future at quarterback. And I was really shocked to see the amount of people that was like, this was a wasted trade by the Seahawks. Like, this dude isn't good. But if you watch the Commanders for the first half of last season, like, Sam Howell was a pretty big surprise. Like, he was top 5 in the NFL in passing yards, passing touchdowns. And then the second half of the season, like, everything just completely went wrong. And I don't know what went wrong. I think maybe he just got the hell kicked out of him too much. The offensive line was pretty much the worst in the NFL. He got sacked on nearly damn near every time he went to drop back. And him going to Seattle with how well they've drafted, the great young nucleus that they have, he may not be able to beat out Geno Smith this year, but this is somebody who a few years back could have been a potential number 1, number 2 overall pick. You know, he definitely has all the intangibles and definitely has the ability to be not just a quality starter for Seattle, but a good enough quarterback where maybe he could lead you to a little bit of a deep playoff run in the near future. So, I mean, when you look at Sam Howell as a scout, do you think that Seattle potentially might have landed a diamond in the rough potential QB1?
Absolutely. Sam Howell was my quarterback too in that 2022 so world renowned NFL draft class. But yeah, I mean, there was a point last year, JT, where Sam Howell led the NFL in touchdowns and yards passing. Like, Sam Howell cooked the Philadelphia Eagles defense was terrible last year. But Sam Howell cooked them, like shredded them like Swiss cheese. So, yeah, I think Sam Howell going to Seattle is a great move for both sides. I think Washington being able to get a third for Sam Howell is fucking great. Like, man, getting a third for that type of player, still developing quarterback, that's really good value, especially for a team that's trying to secure their new starting quarterback. So that's really, really good for Washington. And for Seattle, I mean, JT, you know how I feel about Geno Smith. So for the people out there, I don't really think Geno Smith stops you from, investing into the quarterback, position as you saw with Sam Howell. And while I don't agree with JT, I don't think Sam Howell could, beat out Geno this year, most likely. But I think next year, if Geno has a similar season that he had this year next year, I think Sam Howell is your starter in Seattle. Because again, this year he wasn't the greatest, but when he had time to throw the football, he looked pretty darn good. Like, so if I'm Seattle, like, I am very, very, high on this young man. Like, he's only 22 years old. Like, he's not old. Like, he's an extremely young player still. So for me, it's like Seattle has a potential to do something very, very scary. They could pair Jackson Smith and Jigma and DK Metcalf, who's a little bit older, but we're going to include him in it, with Sam Howell for the next 3 to 4 years and see what you can do.
And you won't have to pay him a lot of money. You have a lot of cap space to allocate.
Yeah, it's a great. That trade was one of my favorite trades so far of the new league year because it benefits both sides so well, bro. Like, yeah, shout out to Sam Howell. Love you, bro. You're a very, very talented quarterback, and I wish you nothing but the best.
And you talk about somebody who was let down by what he had around him. I mean, everybody keeps gassing up Airbnb and wondering why he's not an NFL head coach still, why he's coaching college ball now instead of the NFL. I mean, this dude let Sam Howell out the dry, man. You're a Cowboys fan. You saw what you did to them on Thanksgiving. Like, it's no wonder this dude fell apart, bro. Like, the dude was getting the shit kicked out of him every week, bro. Like, trying to throw deep passes with this offensive line, suicide. And the good thing about Sam Howell that you don't get from Geno Smith is you get really good mobility out of Sam Howell. Like, Sam Howell can really run, and he's a tough son of a gun. He has no problem putting his shoulder down and trying to power through somebody to score a touchdown or pick up a first down. I like Sam Howell. This dude has a lot of heart. He's gutsy. And last year pretty much was the equivalent to his rookie season because he only played one game, which was against Dallas in the final game of the regular season, technically his first year But last year, we saw him start the whole entire season, and it was a mixed bag. So let's see what he can do in Seattle. They already came out and said that he's not going to start over Geno. It's not a quarterback battle. He is going to be the backup for at least right now. But, Geno Smith has something happen, like he gets down with an injury or he starts out slow like he did last year. Sam Howell's going to come out and he's going to take that job. Like, mark my words, he's going to take that job. We got some more trades that took place. The Minnesota Vikings now have 2 first-round picks in the upcoming 2024 NFL Draft. They acquired the 23rd overall selection from the Houston Texans. They are giving the Texans a second-round pick and a 6th-round pick in the 2024 Draft. And they also are giving the Texans a second-rounder for next year's draft, while they now have the 11th and 23rd picks. And we all know what the Vikings probably are thinking. They want to come away with one of the best quarterbacks in this class. The question is, do they have enough to trade up for one of the best? Because picking at 11th, that still puts you in range to get a Bo Nix, maybe a J.J. McCarthy. But can you crack that top 5 to get a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels? Or even if J.J. McCarthy goes that high, can you walk away with the quarterback that you really have your eyes on if you're Minnesota?
Yeah, so this trade is nothing more than, you go out to eat and you get an appetizer. Like, this trade is a total setup trade. I think the assets of 11 and 23 is really enough to intrigue a team like New England. Seriously. I really do. Because at that point, you can, if you decide to trade for Justin Fields, whatever you decide to do at quarterback, at that point, you can continue to build your roster with good players with those 2 picks at where they're slotted. And I love the trade for Minnesota because it shows super aggression. The way you go get your quarterback of the future is you be aggressive. Look at what the Kansas City Chiefs gave up to get Patrick Mahomes at 10. They were super aggressive. And not only were super aggressive, it was meticulous. They had a plan. You get what I'm saying? And it seems like with this trade with the Minnesota Vikings, they're doing the exact same thing. Now, again, you brought up a very good point. Who is this for? Because everybody sees, well, not everybody, but the majority of NFL media sees the top quarterback is Caleb Williams. But after Caleb, it's haywire. Some people have Drake May. Some people have Jaden Daniels. Some people have J.J. McCarthy. It's crazy. So at that point, even if you do get to 3, do you even get your guy? Like, what if Washington takes who Minnesota's trading up for? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's such an interesting, view and such an interesting, potential, scenario. But honestly, I also want to touch on it from Houston's perspective. I think trading out of the first round for them was very smart. They had a very, very good free agency. They addressed a lot of their needs. So this trade back just gets you like a really, really talented player in the second round and continue to add to your already good roster, good young roster. But yeah, Minnesota, man, they absolutely now have the ammo to go get their quarterback of the future. But I just wonder who it is, because if it's McCarthy, for me, because I scout quarterbacks at Filmissart, for me, that's a lot. It's a lot to trade up for J.J. McCarthy, But if you're going up for who I think would be the ideal person, if you're going up for Drake May,
then, hell yeah.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Drake May with Jay Jettis, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson.
Let me tell you something right now. If the Minnesota Vikings did this trade to go up for Drake May, we get to watch Drake May versus Caleb Williams for the next 5 years.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even think of that. And you want to know what's crazy? They wanted to trade off for Anthony Richardson last year. And I think they felt a little bit of remorse because they like, damn, like, maybe we should have been a little bit more proactive. You feel me? And Kevin O'Connell, like, I trust him with any quarterback. But as we've seen with Kyle Shanahan, no matter how good of an offensive mind you may be, if a guy can't play, a guy can't play. There's only so much you can do. So if you're trading up, you got to definitely make sure that you're trading up for a guy who definitely can be that franchise game changer for you at QB. And for Minnesota, them getting the right quarterback is probably the only thing that's keeping them from being in that championship conversation. We know they're going to re-sign Jay Jettis, and they have a pretty decent offensive line. You got Christian Darrisaw. But, you know, would they be straight with a Jaden Daniels?
So again, this is tough because the way I see these quarterbacks could be completely different from how Minnesota sees them. But if I'm in, I try not to bring up trying to create clout for myself or whatever. But I found it very interesting how Chris Sims just completely like shitted on Drake May and said how he's a talented project. But Jaden Daniels in 2022, you could argue, was the worst quarterback out of any of these quarterbacks. Like, his 2022 tape was horrible. And now this year he has the Heisman Trophy season, which, shout out to you. You had an incredible season. But which is it? Are you the 2022 tape that was terrible, or are you the 2023 tape? So I think he has the lowest floor of, the consensus, top 5 quarterbacks in this class. So if you're trading up for Jaden Daniels, Minnesota, please understand that you are getting a potential, NFL, superstar. No, not superstar, NFL star, sure. But you're also looking at yourself saying in 3 years, maybe, dang, like, we got to trade this dude. Potentially.
We messed up, like San Fran.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like, trade. Bro, I promise you, no hater stuff. Trey Lance and Jaden Daniels are more similar than you think. Like, fam, like, and I mind.
As a matter of fact, let's segue to this. Let's segue to that, right? So Minnesota, They got the 23rd pick. They got the 11th pick now. It seems as if they have enough ammo to trade into the top 10. But let's talk about Jaden Daniels, all right? So how do you feel Jaden Daniels as an NFL scout is going to translate to the league? Because it seems like you believe he has a high ceiling, but the floor is incredibly low too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is like I was just, getting at again. It's like the variation in the 2022 tape and the 2023 tape is just so far. Like, I mean, y'all, in 2022, Malik Nabers, the super talented wide receiver that everybody loves and some people think is better than Marvin Harrison Jr., was literally putting his hands on his helmet because Jaden Daniels was missing him wide open after he just cooked a defensive back. Like, this is the type of player that you're potentially getting. Like, the variance of the play. And even this year, even during his Heisman Trophy season, there were times where he just flat out missed guys over the middle in the intermediate part of the field. Just flat out missed. Throw behind. Like, not like behind like this. I'm a football player. Just convenient. Ball like this. Like, you're out here trying to catch a pass. You get what I'm saying? Like, back to the Chris Sims point quickly. It's amazing how he labeled Drake May as a talented project. When in all honesty, that's really Jaden Daniels to a certain extent. he's more of a talented project than Drake May is, because you could easily look at Drake May's tape and say, dang, dog, you really got to stop turn the ball over. You really got to start playing so reckless. And more importantly, you really got to, be accurate with your throws. But Drake May is literally just as athletic as Jaden Daniels. He might not have the blazing speed, but Drake May is easily just as capable of
Baby
getting
Josh Allen.
6 yards. Yeah, that's my comp. My comp for Drake May is a blend of Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, because he has that rare talent to just make a play out of chaos, but he also has that unspeakable talent to make a shit show out of nothing. So that's what it is for me with Jaden Daniels. It's like, out of all the quarterbacks, his floor is so low that I don't mind if the Minnesota Vikings trade up for Jaden Daniels, but I do want to just caution Minnesota fans, and don't get so engrossed in what Dan Orlovsky's,
even Commanders fans, if taking them over Drake May too.
Yeah, like again, it's all about how these teams see these players. But I gotta be honest, if the Commanders took Jaden Daniels over Drake May as a Cowboy fan, I'd be like, yes. I'd be happy. I'd be happy because I would be dealing with a quarterback who wasn't as much of a threat compared to a Drake May. Like I might sound like I'm being harsh, but I'm really being honest based on what I've seen on his tape and trusting my evaluation on him. Like, it's not to say that he can't be any better than what he is right now. It's not to say that he can't become, an NFL star, but it is just a fair warning. Like, this player has a very, very low floor. And when it comes to drafting low floor players with very high potential, you always have to be cautious, because at the end of the day, you really don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you know what they say, like drafting quarterbacks in the first round in general is a risky business. They got a really low hit rate. So if you're a team like the Commanders or Minnesota, you trade up and you put yourself in position to get one, it's like you definitely want to make sure you make the right decision. I like Jaden Daniels. I'm a lot higher on him than you. I think he has a pretty good arm. He throws with pretty good velocity. He definitely has improved tremendously. And going to a team like Minnesota with an offensive-minded coach definitely would do him a lot of justice. Going to New England, I would have concerns about, because Gerard Mayo, defensive-minded coach, and we don't really know how their staff looks. Like when C.J. Stroud got taken by the Texans, you had a little bit of reinsurance that at worst he'll be okay, because with can't think of D'Amico Ryans bringing in Bobby Slowick from Kyle Shanahan, and he follows him to Houston. You know that in that 49ers system, he was going to be decent at worst, but he just ended up being miraculously good. And you think of Jaden Daniels, I don't see him as somebody who can come in and have immediate success right away. I definitely think that there will be a lot of growing pains for a guy like Jaden Daniels, but he does have the ability to run around, extend plays, pick up a lot of yards on the ground. And there were times when he flat out was just carrying LSU's ground game. 200-yard performances against Ole Miss, Florida. Really spectacular to watch. But I do think that the floor with him is fairly low, as it is with a lot of these quarterbacks who get these Lamar Jackson comparisons. Everybody keeps comparing Jaden Daniels to Lamar, and I really think that that's doing a lot of detriment to him, because the expectations are going to be so high. Like, I stopped giving Lamar Jackson comps once Malik Willis flamed out as quick as he did, because Lamar Jackson is just such a unicorn. And I don't think a lot of people realize how rare it is to find somebody like Lamar. Jaden Daniels, to get compared to Lamar, that's high praise, and I think that is a little bit too high of a praise. I think that for Jaden Daniels, his rookie season, he'll run around a lot. He'll probably definitely get over 1,000 yards. And if he goes to the Commanders, they do got a pretty set situation with Cliff Kingsbury. He does fit, what Cliff wants out of, his quarterback, dual threat, can run, can also throw as well. But if the Raiders were to trade up for him, though, because him and Antonio Pierce do have a lot of chemistry dating back to their time at Arizona State. Is he somebody who you could see being more of a guy who you rather sit year one, or a guy who you start year one, let him go through the growing pains?
So I learned last year from my Anthony Richardson takes, you can't just come out and say someone needs to sit based on college tape, because a lot of these players unfortunately come from really, really bad schemes or don't have the lack of talent. I think Jaden Daniels could be a solid rookie quarterback next year. I also think if you did have a situation where you could sit him for you, he could even be better as a second-year quarterback. But I think whoever drafts him, I think they're going to play him year one, just because of the just raw athleticism and raw throwing ability. Like, I know I talked a lot about Jaden Daniels' weaknesses, but I'm going to talk about some of his strengths just to show like I'm not like hating on him. He really thrives the deep ball, JT. Like, he throws not only with anticipation, but really great touch downfield. And that's so tough for such a young player. Like, throwing with touch is something that even some of the best quarterbacks in football at times struggle with. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's really tough. So for Jaden Daniels, it's almost like you have to consider that this is a player that is so raw. But at the end of the day, some of these players, they're going to, develop at a quicker or slower rate. We had the discourse with CJ Stroud and Justin Fields, right? You said, oh, CJ Stroud did it. Why didn't Justin Fields do it? Well, CJ Stroud is obviously, a very much more, higher IQ, I guess, player than Justin Fields. And, you can say the same thing for, I guess I'm just going to say him just for this scenario, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams is probably going to develop way faster than Jaden Daniels because of, his IQ and everything. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on Jaden Daniels as far as him being, a starter or being like having a city year. I think it just depends on who drafts him and what their quarterback situation looks like.
Speaking of quarterback situations, what are the Patriots going to do Start that over. What are the Patriots going to do with the third overall pick this year? Because there are reports coming out that they didn't land Calvin Ridley, who is who they really wanted. And now that they don't have him, they're having a little bit of some back and forth on, is it wise to draft a quarterback without having the right supporting cast around them? Or do you just say, these quarterbacks are just too good to pass up on, we got to get one because we don't know if we're going to be in a position next year to come away with any a good quarterback at all? Or do you take Marvin Harrison at 3, you make that trade for Justin Fields, or do you just trade down, get more assets, target a guy like Michael Penix or Spencer Rattler, maybe late first round, early second? Because I think for me, if I'm New England, I got to take a QB. Okay, if Drake May is on the board, I'm pulling that damn trigger. Drake May there's not a single throw that Caleb Williams can make that Drake May can't make. And even Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is really unique compared to the quarterbacks that New England has had throughout the years with Brady and Mac Jones, stationary thrower from the pocket guys. Jaden Daniels is somebody who can create all platform. He can improvise, extend plays, and it seems like the kind of player who would get the New England Patriots fan base energized. And I really think, the floor for Jaden Daniels is really low, but the potential is definitely high enough where you could see him becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the game. If I'm New England, I definitely understand taking Marvin Harrison at 3, but quarterback, with how deep this draft class is at that position, you don't know if you're ever going to be in this spot again to walk away with the franchise changer at that position. So I just think with the importance of the QB position in today's game, you can't afford to pass up on that.
I will say before I give my answer that the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. is even in this discussion just shows how great of a prospect he is. Because again, like you said, there is no scenario where you're guaranteed to be this high picking a quarterback again. Like, period. Like, you guys could mess around and win like 8 games next year. Like, who knows? You know what I'm saying? So, and the quarterback class next year isn't that great outside of the top 2 or 3 guys. So there's that as well. But I think I would lean toward the quarterback as well, only because there's no guarantee going to be this high again. And beyond that, it's almost like if you take Marvin Harrison Jr., what service are you giving him by taking him and putting him in a situation where he has to catch passes from Jacoby Brissett? I'm just being real, JT. Like, you're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. to catch passes from Jacoby Brissett?
And he was catching passes from Honda McCord.
Well, that wasn't fair either. Hey, I'm just being real, bro. That wasn't fair either. So, yeah. I guess he has experience in that arena. But, yeah. And no disrespect, because, you know, we both like Spencer Rattler. It's not fair that Marvin Harrison Jr. to catch passes from Spencer Rattler either. Marvin Harrison Jr. deserves the best possible quarterback to catch passes from. And if I'm New England, I think what I would value more is getting the quarterback and getting the wide receiver next year. Because, you know, the wide receiver every year, there's a guy.
You could get him.
There's a couple of guys. Oh, my God. Don't even get me started. You talking about a 1-2 quarterback wide receiver combination. Drake May and Luther Burden III. Good night.
Yeah.
That'll play.
Yeah, New England, just go ahead, do yourself the favor, take a QB at 3, and then not even next year, like, look how deep this draft class is at receiver. Like, everybody makes it seem like you can fix every need in one pick. You feel me? And the draft is all about trying to not just try to figure out what players you can get to best improve your team immediately, but trying to find players that you can find that are diamonds in the rough that maybe in a year or two they could become very good starters. You know, this is just such a deep draft class is that you don't have to take a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 if you really want a receiver. Like, yeah, he could be a future elite talent. You feel me? But there's a lot of other studs in this draft class. Like Tank Dell last season, mid-round selection was on pace to finish with the best rookie season out of any of the available rookie wide receivers that went ahead of him. So, I mean, New England, for the fans that keep saying you got to take MHJ at 3, like, yeah, he could be a future Hall of Famer, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other guys who, yeah, they may not be as good as what MHJ will be. That doesn't mean that they're going to be bums. You can still find a Pro Bowler wide receiver in round 2, 3, 4, or 5. Like, it's so, when I did my top 10 receivers, I had a hard time making the list because I simply just love so many receivers that it was hard for me to leave anybody out. Even the receivers that I wasn't that high on, like, I still, you know, like them. You feel me? So if you're a Patriots fan and you keep saying we got to take a receiver at 3 because we need to build the team up, it's like, it's more important to get the QB first. If the QB gets beat up for 1 year, you can live with that. As long as you don't allow it to transpire continuously for the next 2-3 years, it's a lot easier to find great receivers than it is to find a franchise-changing quarterback.
I couldn't agree more with that. And honestly, like, I could give Patriots fans a couple names for second-round picks, third-round picks that you could get a receiver that would really help Drake May or Jaden Daniels year 1. Roman Wilson, wide receiver from Michigan. Dynamic slot. Really, out of all the receivers that played at the Senior Bowl, the only person that really gave Quinton Mitchell a hard time was Roman Wilson. Like, he was just so hard to get a hand on, get a feel on. Like, he's a guy that could really come in and just separate early for you. Another guy in the second round, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia. Georgia might have had one of the greatest teams ever that 1 year when they had Bowers and Darnell Washington and I think they had James Cook or Jalen Carter. Like, well, I was only talking offense, but yeah, the defense was defense. But that offense was low-key talented too. Like, They had some dogs on there. I think they also had Adonai Mitchell. Like, yeah, bro, that offense is crazy. But Lad McConkey, you want to talk about a guy who gets open? Oh my gosh, Lad McConkey, he gets open like just waking up out of bed.
Hey, Lad
Like
McConkey, he still thinks it's COVID. He's social distancing himself from everybody every time he's on the field.
bro, like he's turned around Terrion Arnold. That's hard to do.
I've seen that.
Terrion Arnold's one of the best cornerbacks in this class, and he just turned him around, bro. Some other third round options as well. You know, guys like Javon Baker out of UCF, guys like I'm trying to think of more of an X for you guys. You know, maybe a Devontae Walker as well, North Carolina. People have cooled on him, but I'm still high on him. And honestly, an Xavier Legette. Like, I think Xavier, if you draft Drake May and you give him an Xavier Legette, bro, you're cooking with grease, dog. Like, Xavier Legette, a lot of people are low on him based on, his inability to beat press. You know, he's not the most nuanced route runner. But when it comes to just asking a guy to go downfield and catch the football and make, plays, 50-50 balls and high point the football, like Xavier Legette can do all of that for you. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be a wide receiver one or anything next year, but I think if he's your third option or even your second option, like, it's pretty solid.
There definitely are a lot of options at wide receiver for New England this year. For the Patriots fans, I keep saying, man, we gotta get a receiver. Bro, you could take a QB third overall, and your next 2-3 picks just be straight receivers. You feel me? And one out of three, or maybe 2 out of 3, I think it's a strong chance that you could draft 3 receivers straight, and 2 out of 3 of those guys have a high chance of becoming like really good starters, maybe potential Pro Bowl talent. That's how deep this receiving class is. And while we're on the topic of receiver, the last thing I want to talk about before we let you get up on out of here, Xavier Worthy lit the combine on fire. He broke the 40-yard dash record, 4.21, and everybody's saying, man, Xavier Worthy, we gotta get him. Everybody wants him because everybody's just so enamored with speed. But when I watched Xavier Worthy's film, he didn't crack my top 10 wide receivers. And a lot of people were upset. They were saying, how dare you leave off Xavier Worthy? How dare you disrespect Xavier Worthy? And I asked you, I mean, like, what makes Xavier Worthy such a great receiver prospect outside of the speed? Because he's undersized. Yes, he is a really good route runner, but the dude can't beat press coverage, bro. He can't make contested catches, and he weighed in at 165 pounds. Bro, when I seen him play for Texas, he looked like he was playing around 150-something. He's, like, soaking wet. And the only way I really see him having success in the NFL, and I know you can say this about every prospect, but there's only really 3 teams that he can go to where he can really carve out a great career. The Dolphins, the Chiefs, and the 49ers. That's about it, because he can't get open against press coverage, bro. If you go back, you watch that Alabama tape, F the stats. Most of those stats came against zone coverage or off-man coverage. When Terrion Arnold or Kool-Aid McKinstry lined up against this guy on the outside, it wasn't good for him. He got bullied. He got manhandled. He got pushed around the field. But it's like, if you can get an OC or put him in a system that, scheme guys open like Mike McDaniel with motion and whatnot, get him the ball in space, oh yeah, he could be something special. But I just think that way too many people are buying into the Xavier Worthy hype, and I just have major concerns about this dude at the next level. And me and you both weren't high on Quentin Johnston, got a lot of pushback from that, but we're high on Tank Dell. We're not low on smaller receivers. You feel me? Smaller receivers are taking over the draft. It's just, when you think about Tank Dell, you never saw Tank Dell get bullied. And even in today, even right now, bro, like, you line up against Tank Dell press coverage, that's a major gamble. You feel me? Even with his size, he could route you up and beat press coverage. But Xavier Worthy, nah.
Yeah, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Xavier Worthy's not in my top 10 wide receivers either. So, I mean, It is what it is. I'm not gonna put someone in my top 10 just because they ran fast when I knew they were already fast. I don't care that he broke the 40-yard dash record. I don't care that he broke the 40-yard dash record. I'll say it one time. I don't care that he broke the 40-yard dash record. He didn't participate in the on-field workouts, which is actually what I was more excited for to see. I wanted to see him go through that gauntlet drill.
Yeah, not
to
drop
see
anything.
those hands, not even the drops for real. It's more the hand confidence, right? How confident are you in your hands? Because your catch technique be off, right? But also, this is the other thing you have to understand about Xavier Worthy, right? You do realize he's gonna have to run slant routes over the middle against linebackers, right? Like the only thing, if you ask, all you ask Xavier Worthy to do is run 9 routes, bro. Take him first round, have a blast, have a field day. But if you're asking him to be an NFL wide receiver, I cannot take Xavier Worthy over Adonai Mitchell, his own teammate, over Brian Thomas Jr., and over Troy Franklin. I can't. And everyone's going to say in the comments or watching the playback, oh, well, Troy Franklin had a higher drop rate than Xavier Worthy. Oh, Troy Franklin has worse hands than Xavier Worthy. Troy Franklin isn't as good as a route runner as Xavier Worthy. Number one, he's just as good as a route runner. Number two, he's also 6'1", 170. And beyond that, he is way better at contested catches. He is way better at handling traffic over the middle. And beyond that, when you target Troy Franklin downfield, he actually tracks the ball better than Xavier Worthy does. Xavier Worthy not only has a hand issue, he has a ball tracking issue. Those are red flags when it comes to receiver if you're going to be a deep threat. Because how can I do you understand why Marv, whatever his name is, MVS, was so bad for the Chiefs? It wasn't his hands. He couldn't track the football. If you're gonna be a deep threat, if all you have is your speed and you can't track the ball, you don't have good hands, then what good are you? You're gonna be in the fourth quarter of a football game. You're gonna be looking over your shoulder for a football, and you're gonna drop it. Yeah, that's why he's not in Kansas City anymore. So for Xavier Worthy, man, I understand that Xavier Worthy stands. You're so happy. It was a great story breaking John Ross's, combine record and everything. That's cool. But for me, it's just too many dogs in this wide receiver class for me to really consider taking you in the first round when you still have issues that I have not seen anything on tape or any pre-draft workouts to absolve.
And somebody in the comment section said, when would you draft Xavier Worthy? Me, I wouldn't have a problem taking him like back into the second round, early third, because I'm not saying the dude's going to be automatic like disaster in the NFL. I'm just saying that the amount of teams that could really maximize his skill set is really low. It's only about 3-4 teams, I believe, that would be a perfect fit for him, because I don't know if he can get open at the next level. And everybody keeps saying, well, they play more zone than anything. Like, yeah, they are. But, if you're Xavier Worthy, and let's say your first 2 games, you go off for like a combined 200, 300 yards combined your first 2 games, defensive coordinators are going to key in you, and what are they going to do? Man, that little jam him. You play against the Miami Dolphins and he gets drafted by the Chiefs, you're not lining him up on the outside because, he's going to get destroyed. Like, him against Jalen Ramsey, yeah, good luck to him. It's just, I see him more as a low-end second rounder, high day 3 guy. Yeah, you can run fast. You are a good route runner. He is really good after the catch. But in terms of, him being able to get off the line and his play strength, like, that's a major concern for me. Where would you draft him?
Yeah, I would draft him anywhere from the mid-second round to mid-third. I don't think he, gets to day 3. I think he's too talented and hilariously too fast. But I think, yeah, anywhere from mid second to mid third, because also too he is a really good route runner. Like I can't overstate that enough. Like the route running really, really helps him, in his draft stock. Because if he was just a speed guy, bro, I'll be talking like about him like he's Jalen Hyatt. Because that's all Jalen Hyatt was. And you saw how Jalen Hyatt proved me right this season. He was horrible.
I was
Terrible. No, bro. That. Oh my gosh. I remember we played the Giants. I think it not the first time when we beat them 40-0. He had a goal route against Stephon Gilmore, and Stephon Gilmore literally sat on it. He was playing off, and Stephon Gilmore sat on the route and literally ran with him. And then he actually got beat by him, but he went up to catch the ball and he tried to catch it like this. Like fam, like his hands, like he might have some of the worst hands I've ever seen. Like just the way he tries to catch the football. If it's not a body catch, Jalen Hyatt is not catching the ball. So he's definitely not. Xavier Worthy is definitely not that bad. But I do think I could see him going from that mid second to mid third round range.
and
And
before we let,
I do have a second round grade on him. So it's not like I think he's terrible. I think he just isn't as good as some of the other guys I have before him.
everybody, this is our guy, Artie. He's a scout. Well, the head of scouting for film is a art. We appreciate him for coming on this afternoon and sticking through with us despite our technical difficulties that we had earlier. Please make sure to do yourself a favor and him a favor and subscribe to his channel. It's in the pinned comment section. There's a comment for you. My guy, shout out to SB Flood. He asked you, if the Patriots take Marvin Harrison Jr., what should the Arizona Cardinals do if for some reason they can't trade back?
Oh, that's easy.
Malik
You just
Nabers.
draft Malik Nabers and you keep on moving. See, a lot of people look at this, wide receiver conversation and says, Marvin Harrison Jr. a bust. Let me tell you guys something right now. Malik Nabers, if there was no Marvin Harrison Jr., everybody would be talking about Malik Nabers the way they're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, obviously, it wouldn't be like the generational war being thrown or whatever, but Malik Nabers is a freaking stud, bro. Like, when I see Malik Nabers, I see, like, a combination of DJ Moore and, like, CeeDee Lamb. Like, his ability to just win off the line of scrimmage, like, it's so tough as a wide receiver to win pre-snap, post, during your route, and post-snap. Like, it's really tough to do all three. Like when pre-route, during your route, and then when post-route, like yards after catch. Like Malik Nabers is the type of receiver where he can literally hit you with a crazy release, give you crazy shake on a route at the top, and then take it 60 yards to the house afterwards. Like he just has that ability. And honestly, like Marvin Harrison Jr. can't do that. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. after the catch is nowhere in the same stratosphere as Malik Nabers.
Yeah.
So if I'm Arizona, I'm good either way. Like y'all come get y'all quarterbacks. I'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers, and I'll have a wide receiver 1 for my quarterback, Kyler Murray.
This is my guy, Artie. Head of scouting for film is an art. Make sure that you go ahead, check him out. Also, make sure that you guys go ahead, check us out. Remember that we're not just a YouTube channel, we're a podcast. Every episode of the podcast, including this one, is available in audio format on all podcasting platforms. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. Follow us on Instagram at JT_Sports_ and on X at JT_. If you have a question that you would like answered on a future episode, you can send them in the DMs on those platforms. Once again, we appreciate my guy, Artie, head of scouting for film is an art, coming on. Make sure to check him out. Subscribe to his channel. Subscribe